Okay, so welcome to the final part of our chapter 8 to 9 video series. Okay, now in this video, we're going to talk about the change in demand and supply and how it's going to affect the quantity transacted and market price. Okay, so let's get started because this will be a super long video. So stay tuned and brace yourself for a very a long series. Okay, Now here, when demand increase or decrease, actually, let's focus on demand increase. Let's see what happens. Now, in fact, it's much easier to just look at the situation with a graph, okay? Now, we have our supply, then let's call this demand one, okay? 我哋第一個 demand 啦。Now here, under demand one and supply, we have P1, Q1. Now, this is the original situation. Now, with an increase in demand, okay, 嗱，首先要記住咯，increase in demand goes to the right，向右啊，得唔得？不如我哋寫低佢啊。Increase in demand goes to the right hand side of the graph，OK，向右飛先至叫做 increase in demand，好嗎？OK，now let's see what happens here. Price increases, also quantity increases. You will see that, right? So what is the effect of increase in demand? Increase in demand, price increases, QT also increase. OK，咁啊唔使問啦，倒翻轉啦。When demand decreases, decrease. So you will see demand will follow the same direction，兩個都係同一個方向變㗎，好嘛？ The same direction. Now, what about supply? Again, supply, when it increases, let's mark it down. Increase moves to the right，向右移先至叫 increase 啊。嗱，點解咧？我哋不如攞 supply 試下解啦。Okay, why move to the right would be increase in supply. Okay, now here we have our demand. Let's start with this one, our S1, supply 1. Then here we have P1, we have Q1. Well, if you remember some videos ago, I talked to you about increase in demand and increase in supply, right? I mentioned increase in supply or increase in demand means that even without increase in price, 就算個價不變啊，I still willing to buy more or sell more。所以嗱，你見到啦，喺價不變嘅情況之下，成條向右褪，咪賣多咗咯，好嘛？So here, let's see what is a new situation. New situation, P2, you will see it has dropped, right? While for the quantity, it has increased. 嗱，呢個好易記嘅啫。When things becomes less rare，我多咗 supply 係咪即係冇咁罕有啊？冇咁罕有咪即係多咗咯，係咪啊？Of course, when things are less rare, it becomes cheaper, just like masks。係嘛？以前咧2年前我哋啲口罩啊，係咪？When we talk about face mask, right? 係咪？Used to only have a little bit of mask, right? Therefore, the price of mask was really high. But then nowadays we have a lot of surplus mask，多到啊有突添啊，係咪？而家要清貨大減價啦，係咪啊？Okay, so you see the price would go down, right? Now, therefore, we see the effect when supply increases. Market price decrease, QT increase. 倒轉啦 when supply decreases, market price increase, this one decrease. You will see for supply, right? For supply, they go in an opposite direction. 係倒轉㗎。Okay, 得唔得？ So again, now I do not intend to go into the details of how to recognize all this, right? I think graphically is rather easy to understand for you guys, right? 係咪啊？所以嗱，你真係諗唔到嘅，你其實攞個圖咧畫一畫你就明㗎啦，好嘛？畫一畫你就明㗎啦。So here, now we know individually increase in demand, individually increase in supply, the effect, right? Then what if demand and supply changes together. OK，我哋望望啦。What if they changes together? OK，我哋諗諗啦。Let's say for example, demand increase larger than supply increase. 好啦，if you remember from our previous page, right? Demand increase, price would go up，係嘛？你見我畫兩個箭嘴有原因嘅。OK，then supply increase, price would go down。見唔見啊？Why I use two and one? Because the increase in demand is larger. Therefore, I use two arrows. 咁咪大啲咯，係咪啊？Supply increase, decrease in price. Therefore, what is the overall effect? Overall effect, market price would increase. OK，好啦，咁唔使問啦。What happens to QT? Increase, increase, increase. We know that QT would also increase by a lot. OK, increase by a lot. Now let's use a graph. OK，我哋唔好理呢句住，我哋唔好理呢句住，一陣間先處理。Let's use a graph to represent this. OK, we need both to increase. So remember, when we draw these kind of graphs, we start with a reference point. Okay, this is our D1, this is our S1, P1, Q1. 好嘛？好啦， now we need both demand and supply to increase. Only that demand would increase by a whole lot. 咁啊，不如話誇張啲啊，係咪啊？ You see, I moved the demand all the way to here, while supply also increased, but only by a little bit. So let's say to here, okay, to here. You see, I increase a little bit. 見唔見啊？我 demand 係咪 shift 得多過 supply 啊？ So let's see what happens. Here, price increases, right? Q increases, which matches our conclusion above. OK， 好嘛？嗱，所以原來點做咧？ When you need to do this kind of question, OK, all you need to do is to remember this table. Actually, you don't need to remember. 好易就會明㗎啦，其實你慢慢就會明㗎啦，係咪啊？ And then you compare each one of them. And then compare their force. I'm so sorry，係咁 cut 添，係咪啊？你對比翻邊個大啲，邊個效果大啲，咪邊個會勁啲咯，係咪啊 ？OK， 嗱，let's do one more. What if this one? Okay, what if this one? Let's say demand increase, but then supply decrease. So what we have to do? Demand increase, price increase. Supply decrease, price increase. We know that price would definitely increase by a whole lot. What about this one? Demand increase, quantity increase, supply decrease, quantity decrease. 但係而家嘅 demand 要升得多啲嘛？ So what happens is that overall effect, we see that quantity transacted should also increase, right? Graphically, it should look something like this. Graphically, it should look something like this. The graph on right-hand side. Here. Again, we always start with our reference point, S1 and D1. Okay, 好嘛？ Now we have P1, we have Q1. 好啦，跟慢慢嚟咯喎。Now we need demand to increase, but we need supply to decrease. At the same time, the decrease in supply needs to be less than the increase in demand. 咁咪又誇張啲咯，係嘛？ Let's do this again. Let's say demand increase by this much, 向右褪咁多。Then supply need to decrease, but only by a little bit. Let's say to here. Let's see what's going on with the price and quantity transacted. Price increases, matches our conclusion, and quantity here also increases, which also matches our conclusion. OK， 好嘛 ？So with all these， 我諗大家都明啦。So what happens when demand and supply they change in the same direction? Let's say for example, right? 係咪 the change is the same. Then let's say same direction. 我哋係試下，如果同一方向嘅 what will happen if they change in the same direction? Then definitely, right? You see, right? Same direction, they will cancel out each other. So this one doesn't change. This one would have a double effect. 係咪？因為兩個一齊升啊嘛，兩個一齊升咪 double 佢咯，係咪？Basically, right? If they are the different direction, opposite direction. 如果倒轉嘅話咧，就啱啱倒轉啦。You see, if one increase, one decrease, but by the same amount, then this one definitely 其實唔係 definitely 嘅，一陣間再講啦。Most likely unchanged, but this one, right, we have a times two effect，係咪？因為啱啱倒轉㗎佢兩個，係咪？佢兩個啱啱倒轉啊嘛。唔係喎，唔係倒轉啊，呢個一樣㗎，係嘛？If demand increase and supply decrease, then they will have the same result on price. OK， 得唔得？原來講咗咁多boys。This is the thing you need to remember. You just hold all these table and then use this table to compare the power of demand and supply. 好嘛？Now, boys, I suggest for 輕機添。For this sentence, let's talk about this at school, 好嘛？我哋返學先講啦，係嘛 ？This one mostly out of syllabus。而家基本上 syllabus 好少捉住呢樣嘢嚟拗噶啦，好嘛？But this one I still want you to know. But let's deal with that back at school. OK？我哋而家呢個 video 唔好講咁多啦，我哋返學先即場試下，好嘛？Something about quantity transactor。唔係講到咁簡單嘅 but in reality, in DSC, most of the time they do not care too much about this point. OK， 好嘛？所以返學先講啦，好嘛？ Now, for the remainder of the video, let's focus our attention on all the past papers I put in here. OK， 好嘛？好啦 start with 2010. Suppose both the price and quantity transacted of import rice decrease. 咩意思啊？點解 P 又跌 ，QT 又跌嘅？ Can you think of what is the situation? Now, if you look at the table, the only possible scenario would be when demand for imported rice, okay, decrease 係嘛？當我啲入口米個 demand 跌咗咪會咯。So this is likely to be caused by, let's see, right, an increase in transportation cost。記唔記得啊 ？Cost 係關咩事啊 ？Cost something to do with supply, not demand. So not A. B, a change in taste from consuming rice to consuming noodles，即係咩意思啊？唔食米咯，唔食米咁買唔買咁多米啊？Yes, exactly，咁咪唔買米咯，係嘛？A bad harvest 係咪突然之間農作失收啊？supply 少咗咯，係咪啊？supply 少咗咯。And an increase in the income given that rice is a normal good. 點解要講明 normal good 啊？Here, if you remember, normal goods means that higher the income, higher the demand. Income increase, then the demand for rice should increase, not decrease, right? So this one, demand increase, also not the answer we want. OK， 係咁嘅咋，好嘛？ Now, what about next one? Most Hong Kong people use either town gas or electricity for cooking. OK， now for your information, my new home, I use electricity. I do not use town gas，係咪啊？我新嘅屋企啦，就係攞電磁爐啦，唔攞 town gas 啊，好嘛？ Now, suppose there is a drastic increase in electricity charges，係咪？而家假設啊，電費加咗好多啊，好嘛？電費加咗好多啦。Now, consumer expenditure on electricity consumption. OK， 嗱睇住咯噃，發生咩事咧 ？Here, when the price of electricity increases, according to the law of demand, QD of electricity would decrease。好啦，咩叫 expenditure 啊 ？expenditure 我哋今日學咗佢啦。Simply total expenditure，你使幾多錢啊？Each unit is let's say $10. You buy 10 units, right? Sorry, you buy 10 units. P times Q，原來 P 乘 Q 就係啦。每一件你咁多錢，你總共買咗咁多件，乘埋一齊係咯。Okay, here increase, decrease. So do you know how this will change? You'd have no idea how total expenditure would change unless we go to chapter 10 when we talk about elasticity of demand. Okay, more precisely, it should be price elasticity of demand. 嗱，但係我哋唔好咁 technical 住啦。OK，好嘛？So it may increase or decrease 係嘛？我哋其實唔知㗎，may increase, may decrease, may remain unchanged。我哋 A 同 B 一定唔啱。嗱 C 有機會唔轉，有機會升，有機會跌，所以 C 同 D 未知㗎。OK，don't know，right？But the expenditure on town gas expenditure，好啦，我哋睇下啦，town gas 啊，town gas and electricity，what is their relationship? If you remember, they belong to something we call substitute relationship. Now we know that electricity, I'm using less electricity. So what would happen to the demand for town gas? We know that demand for gas would increase. 好啦，嗱重點咯喎，demand 升即係咩意思啊？Price increases, quantity increases. So what happens to total expenditure on town gas? Definitely increase. Okay, so here answer will be D. 得唔得？ Answer will be D. Okay, it may be a little bit difficult for now, but don't worry. As you do more, you will find these kind of questions basically like eating rice, 食飯咁食㗎啦，好嘛？ All right, now what about next question? Demand and supply of swine flu vaccine in Hong Kong。原來當年啊，10年講豬流感啊，係咪講得好誇張㗎嗰陣時？係咪啊？The equilibrium is at E，原先係呢點啦，好嘛？Now if the number of swine flu vaccine manufacturer increases，好啦，呢句先。多咗 manufacturer 即係咩意思啊？多咗 seller 咯，so supply increases。supply increase go to 記唔記得啊？right hand side we know that we want S2，我哋想要 S2啦。And the risk of being infected by swine flu increases。而家突然之間話啦，市場上可能天氣問題啊，好容易有豬流感㗎。So what would happen? People would definitely want more swine flu vaccination。OK， 唔係想要 swine flu，係想要佢 vaccination。OK，so here demand would increase, changes to D2。OK，now we need S2 and D2。The only place would be here, E4. Okay, answer will be D. 係啊，咁做㗎咋，冇特別難嘢㗎啦，咁做㗎咋。What about next one? You see, very similar, right? Very similar. We are talking about imported Japanese automobiles in Hong Kong. Let's say this one Honda，可能呢架 Honda 啦，咩 Toyota 啊、Honda 嗰啲啦，係咪？我唔識㗎，我冇揸車嘅，唔好問我啊。I only know cameras, right? To my wife's dismay, okay? I only know camera. Okay，好啦，here let's see. Original equilibrium at E, exactly this point, right? 好啦 now suppose it is rumor that there are technical problems with Japanese automobile that may cause traffic accident。好啦，原來日本車會炒車嘅。So immediately, I think this one you guys would understand。好啦，日本車會炒車，咁買唔買咁多？梗係唔買咁多啦。Demand would decrease. Therefore, we know that it should move to D1，係咪應該要落 D1 啦？ At the same time, Japanese yen appreciates against Hong Kong dollar。呢個你應該唔識嘅呢個 ，OK？ 我哋未學到啊。呢個咧所謂 appreciate 即係咩意思啊？其實咧，日yen 升值啊，so price in Hong Kong dollar of these cars would increase。OK，would increase 係咪會貴咗啊？係咪會貴咗啊？好嘛？So here，let's see，we have D1 now。 Since this is a 2011 question，嗱呢啲咧始終係比較舊嘅題目啊。Now in our current syllabus，OK，in our current syllabus，OK，appreciation and depreciation，OK，mostly would affect affect demand，OK，would affect demand，係嘛？所以呢度咧我哋未學到嘅，我哋未學到嘅，this we will learn again in chapter 25, chapter 25. But for our purpose, remember, appreciation and depreciation, this one affects demand. And in our case, OK，因為日yen升值啊，this one demand would decrease. 原來啦，我哋係去晒 D 嗰度啊，OK。So here is a little bit funny, OK。I think the actual answer, it should not affect supply, right? It should not affect supply. The overall change should be demand decrease. 嗱係咁啦，會考同 DSE 有時係唔同㗎啦啲嘢。Okay, so for our purpose, all you need to know for this question is that both of them, demand would decrease. Okay, demand would decrease. 你25課你就明㗎啦，25課你明㗎，一升值咧，仲要攞港幣嚟計咧。Now, basically, our demand would decrease. OK，好嘛？don't worry too much about supply. Don't worry too much about supply. 好嘛？ Now, what about next one? Here, the government has imposed an environmental levy. 呢個啊，即係 tax 係咪？ For those of you who are wondering what levy is, basically a tax, OK? Environmental tax on plastic bag. 原來就10幾年啦，咁就當年啱啱開始話膠袋徵費啊。Okay, but not on the non-woven reusable bags， 不織布袋啊，係咪即係嗰啲環保袋啦？講得簡單啲，係咪？環保袋啦。Now suppose 嗱，我哋慢慢嚟啊。Here we know that plastic bag and those non-woven bags, what are they? They fall into a relationship we call substitute. So here, plastic bag becomes more expensive. So people would get less of plastic bag. Therefore, the demand for non-woven would increase, meaning that price increase, quantity increase. 得唔得？ Because of substitute relationship。好啦，咪先啊，未完啊。Suppose there was also an increase in the number of producer of non-woven。OK， 發生咩事啦？佢而家話啦，唔止 demand 升喎。Here supply also increases. So here price decrease, Q increase. What is the overall effect? Overall effect, price, we don't know. Quantity increases. So what would happen to the total sales revenue? 唔使睇啊，嗱咩叫 revenue 啊 ？Again, total sales revenue, P times Q. 你 P 都唔知升定跌。Do you know whether it increase or decrease? Don't know. Okay, so answer, we still don't know. Okay, although it's very tempting to say increase, right? But we don't know. Actually, we don't know. 我哋唔知啊，其實，好嘛？其實我哋唔知㗎。Alright， 好嘛？嗱 ，what about next one? Okay, finally, we are into DSE sample paper. 飲啖水先啦。Now here shows the hotel accommodation market in London。咦，好似之前咪見過咯。之前唔係 London， 之前嗰 LA 係咪 football 嘛，係咪啊？ Point E is the original, okay? Now it says, suppose there is a bomb attack in the subway station。好啦，如果倫敦爆炸，你會唔會去倫敦？正啦媽，倫敦爆炸，我哋快啲去旅行啊 ！No, of course not, right？ 冇人咁變態噶嘛。So here, bomb attack, most likely demand for tourism decreases. Okay， 好啦。In order to go for the go to the tourism, right? What do you need? You need hotel. So this hotel, basically, because of a complement relationship, 係咪啊？ Demand for hotel would also decrease 係咪啊 ？Tourism decreases because they are complement, or some of you may argue it is derived demand 係咪？你話要有酒店先做到旅遊業啊嘛。So yes, you can also argue this is a derived demand. OK 係咪啊？Depending on how you argue. OK，我覺得兩個都拗到嘅，兩個都拗到嘅，視乎你係咩角度睇嘅啫，好嘛？And there is a rise in the therefore demand decreases D1. Rise in operating cost 一 cost 高啦，記唔記得？When cost increase, supply decrease 係咪貴咗唔做咁多嘛？So here S1 彈過去啦。So let's see D1 S1 yes W point A 好嘛？阿 Sir 咁 straightforward 係啊，我有話呢課唔 straightforward 咩？不嬲都話呢課係咁啦。OK 好嘛？Now what about next one？practice paper OK。Initial market for printed books 小心啲啊，係 printed books on E0 OK，E0 睇咩事先？Trend to read electronic books OK 好啦，如果而家啦 electronic 嘅 demand increases 好啦。As we already know, this is a substitute relationship. Therefore, the demand would decrease. 係咪啊？Demand decrease 即係咩？邊個啊？睇先。Here, D1. Okay, should go to D1. 好啦，跟住啦。There is a rise in the price of printing paper. 好啦，如果 printing paper 而家貴咗，即係咩意思啊 ？Boys, in order to make books, you need printing paper. So the price of printing paper increases. It means that the cost would increase, meaning the supply would decrease. So here, supply decrease S1. D1 S1, I think it should be here, EC. Answer will be EC. Point C. OK，好嘛？係咁咋？好啦，now what about next one? A train accident seriously affected the confidence of traveller using a high-speed electric train service. OK，佢話而家啦，應該嗰啲高鐵啊，係咪啊？高鐵啊，炒車佢話 OK，好啦，at the same，慢慢嚟先，我哋望咗 A 先，望咗 A 同 C 先。嗱，唔該你自己小心啊，呢條自然呢條 air travel service。High speed railway 見唔見兩個唔同啊？兩個 market。OK，here the accident for will make the demand for for train decrease。梗係唔搭火車都炒車啊，大佬，好嘛？But at the same time, because of a substitute relationship, the demand for not airport, air travel would increase，係咪啊？喂，大佬，我唔搭火車搭咩好？搭飛機咯，係咪啊？So here you see, do not forget about these two markets，小心啲睇啊。At the same time, the airlines are facing the problems of rising fuel prices。OK，即係咩意思啊？好啦，油啊嘛，油即係咩嚟㗎？The cost increase。Therefore, supply of air travel would decrease, right? So which of the following would represent a result of the above events? Let's see, right? Air, no, this is wrong. This is wrong, okay? 唔係 A 啦，好啦，Air demand 唔係跌喎，so this is also wrong, okay? 好啦，here high speed, we know demand decrease, but does it affect supply? No, nothing happens with supply. So answer would simply be D. Okay, you will see demand decrease, supply remains unchanged for train. OK，好嘛？嗱，好自然係一條，兩個唔同嘅標題啊，要睇清楚啊。Okay, next one, 2012, question 15. Okay, property market. Okay, 而家啦，樓市啦講 used to be E0. Okay，好啦，睇住咯噃。If the government increase stamp duties levied on buyer，嗱，你未學到呢個嘅，OK，係嘛？我哋唔好理啦。總之嘅係 buyer 要你俾錢嘅。 要 buy 收費嘅，嗱我哋啦呢個寫低佢啦啊。We will learn this in chapter 11. Actually, chapter 11 we do not learn this. We learn tax on seller, but for now demand decrease. OK， 原來啦 demand 會跌嘅。So D1 and tightens the control on dumping of construction waste。而家啦，我建築廢料冇咁容易抌，即係咩意思啊？The operating cost increases, therefore supply of property would decrease. So we have S1, D1 S1 邊度 D1 S1 啊？S1 D1 哦 E2，OK here B，OK 得唔得？嗱，所以有時都幾眼快，係咪？Sometimes it's a little bit tricky, it's a little bit difficult to look at when the graph is so confusing, but it's fine. With more training, you should be able to do it. OK， 哎又嚟啦，做嚟做去三幅被㗎啦，見唔見啊？OK， 咁啊，now show the market for luxury watches. OK， 20啊，又係20開始啦。Luxury watches. Now suppose the rental of shopping premise rises sharply. 即係咩意思啊？ Here, when rent increases, costs would increase. Therefore, the shops, the shops which sell the watches, meaning the supplier of watch, would decrease. 係咪啊？會跌啦。So we have S1 要跌過嚟。呢啲條條跌嘅冇升嘅。啊玩嘢喎。And the economy in the mainland experience a recession. Make a recession 咧，for now, you need to know it is 衰退啊，係嘛？Mainland economy not doing so good。通常喺香港買錶嗰啲係咩人嚟㗎？係咪香港人？好似唔係喎，係咪啊？So when the income decreases, therefore demand decreases. OK， 好啦。We need this one, D2, S1, D2, E2, OK， 好嘛 ？Answer will be B。一題題兩個都係跌嘅，咁冇新意嘅。哇 ，my goodness， this is crazy, boys. This is so difficult. OK， 點解咁講啊？睇住咯噃。A drop in the price of good X， 我哋逐個逐個寫出嚟啊。Will lead to a drop in the price of good Y. Okay? Now we need to understand their relationship. 究竟發生緊咩事先？嗱，我哋中間 skip 咗好多嘢啊，呢度，好嘛？我哋 skip 咗好多嘢啊，好嘛？Now 輕機添，等阿 Sir 諗下，我想講啲咩先。Oh yes，我突然之間諗到啦。Here for price of Y to decrease，嗱，我哋做一個 reverse engineering 啊。There can only be two possibilities. 如果我要價跌 ，OK? What happens to the demand and or supply of good Y? Is either demand of Y decreases or supply of Y increases. 是但一邊嘅啫。Okay, only these two possibilities such that P of Y would decrease. OK， 好啦，咁我哋啊褪後一步啦。Since this one is about demand, so we know that the first part here, Px decrease by the law of demand, Qd of x increases, and by the law of supply, Qs of x would decrease. 好啦。點先至可以令到我 x 上升 y 下跌啊？ The only possibility is when they are substitute relationship。好啦，咁呢邊點連起上嚟啊？ How come when Qs of x decreases, then supply of y increase? Only when they are competitive supply， 係咪啊？你要爭啊嘛，係咪 ？When I make x，then I can't make y. Now I do not make x, I can make more y, right? So here, competitive supply and substitute. Okay, answer 1 and 3. OK， 嗱，你見下呢個好難做㗎。OK， you need to do some reverse engineering and you need to remember what happens when demand increases or decreases and what happens when supply increase or decrease. OK， 得唔得啊？呢個咧有幾個層次，唔容易做㗎，好嗎？Now on to the next page. On to the next page. 好啦，2014 question 14. Okay, cosmetic surgery. Okay, this is cosmetic surgery market. 講緊嗰啲化妝品啊，好嘛？If people become more 唔係喎 cosmetic surgery 唔係化妝品啊，整容啊。Okay, plastic surgery. Okay, if people become more open-minded to to cosmetic surgery, most likely because of Korean. 係咪啊？梗係啲人成日掛睇韓國嗰啲姐姐啦，是但啦，整容啦，整到好似嗰啲叫咩嗰啲我唔識啊，我唔識韓國啲姐姐叫咩名啊？你自己揾啦，係咪？Insert a Korean K-pop girl name，OK？by yourself，OK？我唔識啊，OK？More open-minded. What does that mean? It means that people, the demand for them would increase. OK？好嘛？So here, D1. 好嘛，要向右啦。While more regulations are imposed on cosmetic surgery industry，冇咁容易入門啦，係咪？冇咁容易俾你開鋪啦。So here, more regulations, it means that the cost increase, therefore supply drops, which is S2。好啦，我哋揾下 D1 S2 E3，OK，E3 啦。OK，answer will be E3。OK，好嘛？你阿 Sir 做嚟做去三幅被係咁噶啦，你想點啊？考試係咁噶啦。Boys, in an exam, you don't want creativity, you want it to be boring。越悶越好，點解啊？悶嘅意思即係你已經識晒咯，你見過咯，係咪啊？OK，好。Now next one, 2016, remember trouble，肯定唔方好嘢啊，係咪啊？好啦。Now, which of the following situations would lead to an increase in the demand for private housing？小心啲啊，係 private housing 啊，好嘛？First of all, price of private housing decrease。好啦，boys，唔該你自己圈低佢啦。When you see the word price, P decreases，記唔記得啊？而家係 price 跌，即係咩意思啊？By the law of demand, QD increases, not demand。Demand 幾時會變啊？Demand changes when factors outside of price changes，係價格以外嘅嘢變先至變啊嘛。OK，so definitely not the answer. The supply 唔係喎，咪先冷靜啲先。Supply of public housing，OK，哎呀，爭啲睇錯咗啊。睇咯喎，when supply of public housing increases。What happens? The quantity of public housing increases. 好啦 as you already know, public housing and private housing, they are substitute relationship。唔買私樓咪買公屋咯，係咪？唔係買唔到公屋嘅，租嘅。I'm so sorry，買唔到嘅。Okay, so here more public housing, it means that the demand for private housing would decrease. Unfortunately, not quite the answer we want。我哋係要升，唔係要跌，好嘛？好，跟住啦。People expect the interest 我哋唔好太深啊，C 太深我哋 skip 咗佢先，睇下 D 先。People expect the price of private housing to increase later，咁正常啦，係咪啊？Future price increases。好啦，你作為買家 to save money，你梗係你想慳翻錢喎。Demand now，梗係而家即刻買，梗係而家即刻買啦，係咪啊？Demand now would increase，OK？Demand now would increase，好嘛？佢即刻買啦。So here answer will be D。好啦，C 係咩東西咧？C is a little bit tricky。當年呢條係出得好差嘅，我覺得。其實有啲勾絲啊，呢個係，好嘛？People expect the interest rate for mortgage loans to increase later。慢慢嚟啊，乜嘢係 mortgage？乜嘢係 mortgage？OK，now obviously you guys are too young。OK，remember mortgage 一個所謂按揭啊，mortgage is in fact a debt， 係一個債務嚟嘅 for buying house which me and my wife is currently under， 係咪？我同我老婆而家就要還緊啲 mortgage 啦，因為買咗樓，係咪啊？Debt for buying house。好啦 ，and then do you remember in chapter 1 when we talk about interest rate？ 咩叫 interest rate 啊？咪個 cost of borrowing。OK， now if you expect 嗱呢個咧有啲難啊。If you expect the interest rate to increase， 原來咁啊，學 BA 嘅你咧有機會學嗰個 concept 啊。There is a concept. Price of property is inversely proportional to interest rates。原來同我哋嘅 interest rate 利息係成反比嘅。So if I expect interest rate to increase later, what does that mean? It means that I expect price in the future to decrease。係咪？原來我 assume 第時個 interest rate 會升嘅意思 ，it is the same as saying I expect the price in the future to decrease of property, by the way. Okay, now this one, therefore, you see is the opposite of option D, but I think this is a very poorly set question， 係咪啊？因為其實你而家冇講噶啦，已經冇人教呢個 concept 噶啦，冇人教你樓市係同利息成反比噶啦。OK， definitely not a big fan of this question. If you ask me, I think this is an unfair question。唔係你做唔到，係唔公平噶。OK， I myself not a big fan of this particular question。OK， 好嘛？嗱，不過唔好理啊，我成日都話2016年咧就唔方好嘢，係咪啊？哦 again another 2016又係唔方好嘢噶啦，好嘛？所以 see right taxi service 今次係講 taxi 啦，係咪搭的士啦？其實都想講搭地鐵啊，係咪 just now I want to say taxi 搭地鐵添？No， 的士啊，係嘛？E is the original。喂，下次可唔可以寫好呢個叫 E0啊？由 A B C D E， 鬼睇到咩？New apps for smartphones such as Uber， 喂，原來當年啊16年咧新嘢嚟㗎。Nowadays Uber is no longer so new, right? Has been developed that enables some private car owners to provide general public with personalized point。好鬼長啊，總之即係咩意思啫？係啊，咁鬼長讀到我都唔想讀啊。Substitute of taxi。唔搭的士咪 call Uber 咯，係咪啊？With more Uber，what does that mean? It means that the demand for taxi will decrease。真係火滾啊！讀嚟讀去都未讀完啊！真係啊，英文已經差㗎啦，仲要讀咁多英文啊。OK，so here D1 decrease D1。OK， at the same time the fuel price has decreased decreases my has decreased。邊個打啊？好似我打，對唔住啊。OK，has decreased significantly。What kind of English is that？ 啱啱先個英文差，真係中招添。OK， 好嘛？Fuel price has decreased significantly，即咩意思啊？呢度啦 ，fuel price cost decreases supply increases S2。OK，D1 S2 啊 E2 好啦。So the new equilibrium point would be E2, which, by the way, boys, do you think this is true? Obviously not true. 的士會唔會減價？梗係唔會啦。So boys, this is a perfect example when economics sometimes cannot be used to explain actual empirical situation。的士會唔會咁減價？梗係唔會啦。你有冇見過的士減價？ No, never, right? 係咪啊？ So sometimes economics analysis is just an analysis。的確有啲咩跌咗啊？唔係價跌啊。Most important 是 QT decrease，呢人唔搭的士啊， 個價冇跌㗎，係 QT 會跌啊。Okay, surplus. There would be in reality there would be a surplus of taxi。正常啦，你見而家的士遊街嘅喺度，冇客嘅，價都空嘅，你隨便截都截到嘅。Anyway，I digress。好啦，講夠啦，快啲拍完45分鐘啦，大鑊。Okay, now what also 2016, another trouble 係咪啊？The demand for construction workers will increase 係咪？佢講緊啦，幾時個 demand 會升啊？If the legal procedure for urban redevelopment are simplified. OK，我哋諗諗啦，if they're simplified, then there will be quantity of redevelopment would increase，咪多咗啲 redevelopment project 咯。Okay, so in order to carry out these redevelopment project, what do you need? Okay, you definitely need worker. So this is already the answer. Okay, demand increase。但係啦，我想問下呢個咩 relationship 啊？You need worker in order to produce redevelopment，即係呢個咩嚟㗎？This is a factor of production. We call this derived demand。OK，等等，咪 A 咯。好啦，睇埋其他先。Wage rate，好啦，邊個再錯咧？唔該你自己 drop 科啊。OK，仲有機會嘅，下學期仲可以 drop 科嘅。Okay, please drop the subject if you still do not, cannot do this. Okay，唉，P 跌嗰個係咩升啊？QD 啊嘛，quantity demand not demand。Okay，好啦，C 啦，the government provides more allowance for training program for construction industry。OK，for construction industry。咁如果多咗training，即係咩意思啊？There will be more worker available。多咗人識做建築工啊。好啦，more workers available。What does that mean? The supply would increase。多咗 supply of worker，唔係 demand for worker。OK， finally fewer job opportunities in construction industry in Macau。好啦，咁即係咩意思啊？The quantity of worker in Macau would decrease。好啦，if you remember when I work in Macau, can I work in Hong Kong? No. Therefore, by the relationship of competitive supply，我唔去澳門去邊啊？去香港咯。Supply would increase, still not demand, only supply。OK，好嘛？嗱，所以你見啦，2016, I wasn't joking when I say 2016 is relatively more difficult compared to all year，係咪？你見到2016年嘅題目係比較難㗎。OK，所以你睇翻 cut off point 2016年都係最低㗎。OK，I think it's 91%, right? 91%，16年係咪91%啊？好似係咪？So around there, around 91 or 90, around there. OK，好嘛？Now 2017. Okay, now which of the following situation would most likely lead to an increase in demand for iPhone 係咪？佢而家 iPhone 嘅 demand 上升喎。technological breakthrough in a battery reduce production costs。OK，咁呢個 supply 上升啫，係咪啊？By the way, I think this is a joke。OK，當年啊，考評局上they want to poke fun at both Apple and Samsung。發生咩事啊？當年17年。不論係 Apple 定係 Samsung，OK，both of them has some very serious issue with battery，兩個都會爆炸，好唔好？OK 好嘛？嗱，people expect the next model will have more innovative feature。第時嗰部勁啲，咁買唔買呢部啊？梗唔買呢部啦。Demand decrease。A model of Samsung smartphone is banned by many airlines。好啦，Samsung 係咩嚟㗎？呢個 substitute 啊嘛。嗱，therefore demand would increase。Yes, C 係咪啊？我當年點解 ban 啊？爆炸咯，記唔記得啊？Do you remember the model? You guys are too young. It's called Note 7. Now pronounce that in Chinese and you understand what's the problem with this name. Okay? And finally, Apple reduced the selling。唔講咧，邊個再錯啊？自己作課啊！Price decreases, QD increases，係咪啊？錯啊！OK，好嘛，嗱，自己寫落中文讀一次，你明㗎啦。OK，係咪 Note 7？ Alright，我做極都唔完嘅。OK，here。Now suppose good Y is an inferior good 啦，提醒自己啊。Income increase, demand decrease，提醒自己啊。When people's income rises, demand decreases, and the production costs increase, supply decreases. Okay, D S D. What happens to equilibrium price? 我哋望望先。P decreases, P increases, increase, decrease. So does it increase or decrease? How do I know? 我鬼知啊，未 increase or decrease 咯。OK，好嘛，好，跟住啦。The average waiting time for public housing is 4.7 years, according to data from Housing Authority. Okay, now which of the following? 哦，雜記添。Which of the following would lead to an increase in the waiting time？仲要 waiting，慢慢嚟啊！乜嘢叫做 waiting time 啊，boys? What is a waiting time？記唔記得 ？Waiting time simply refers to shortage of public housing，唔夠啊。Now I need the shortage to be longer, so only two way. Either demand further increase or supply further decrease. OK，而家就係唔夠 QS 嘛，QD 太多嘛。So in order to make it even longer, I need to make demand increase or supply decrease. 好啦，睇住咯噃。A financial aid offered to low-income families renting private residential flats. 咁即係咩意思啊？ If we have more money, then demand for private should increase. Because of substitute relationship, then demand for public would decrease. 誒，好似唔中喎。好啦，a rise in the income limit of applying for public housing，即係容易咗定難咗啊？Is it easier to apply or more difficult to apply? It's actually more difficult, right？係咪咧？A rise in income limit，咁即係有錢咗嘅人。係嘛？Rise in income limit 唔係喎，應該多咗人喎。Then more can apply. Okay, more can apply. Then demand of public housing would increase. I think B is the answer. 我睇埋 CD 先。而家講咗成個鐘啊，有啲頭昏腦脹啊，係嘛？A relaxation of rules regarding the change of land use。假設而家可以將土地用途轉啦，let's say then more land, okay, more land can be changed into building public housing. Therefore, supply of public housing increase, not the answer we want. And finally, provision of shared housing unit by a billionaire, okay, by applicants 係咪？而家多咗啲叫 share housing unit 嘅，咁啲人啊去咗嗰啲啦，係咪啊？Demand for shared housing increases, therefore demand for public housing decrease, not the answer we want 係啦，B 係啱嘅，OK，證明阿 Sir 都仲 OK 嘅。Alright, now what about a few of long and short questions? OK，好嘛？嗱，如果你自己要唞一唞嘅，你自己 pause 去唞一唞先啊。我知53分鐘有啲長啦。OK，好嘛？Only a few more pages to go, so bear with me. OK，好啦，now here. 1 month after the first phase of implementation of environmental levy on plastic shopping bags，OK，原來10年嘅事啊，原來係咯嗰陣時膠袋徵費1009年嘅事啦。An increase in the quantity sold of non-woven usable bags, okay, was reported, okay, was reported 係咪佢話發覺啦？原來多咗呢啲所謂嘅不織布啊，OK。Now based on the above information, explain how the change in the total revenue to this non-woven 係咪啊？原來對呢啲人有咩影響啦？OK。Now let's use word first. First of all, we know that with the levy, then the price of plastic bag increases. Therefore, QD of plastic would drop. Because of the substitute relationship, we know that demand for these non-woven would increase. 好啦， when demand increase, what happens? Price of non-woven increase, quantity of non-woven increase. Therefore, total revenue, which by the way is P times Q, would also increase. 就係咁嘅啫。 好啦，點畫啊？咪即係畫翻個 demand increase 咯。So here we have supply, then this one we have our demand 1. Okay? P1, Q1. 好嘛？ P1, Q1. Now increases D2 to P2, Q2. Then if you want a better presentation, then shade this area and call this increase in total revenue. Okay, 好嘛? Now obviously here it's I use some short forms not to make the video too long. Okay, 但係記住啦，考試你括翻去 give some reference. When you say price increase, then bracket P1 to P2，俾翻啲 reference 啊，對翻幅圖啊 ，and Q increases Q1 to Q2，係咪 increases from Q1 to Q2，increases from P1 to P2，something like that。OK， 寫翻清楚，咁你就會好啲啦。OK， 好嘛 ？Demand increases same D1 to D2，括翻去會好啲，好嘛？考試括翻去會好啲。OK， 好嘛 ？What about next question? Here, there was a boom in the property market in Hong Kong. It says hot money flow into the property market. 嗱，你未必識啊呢個係咪？好耐之前啦，係咪？ If we have hot money, which means the income would increase. Therefore, demand for property would increase. D1 to D2. 好嘛 On the other hand, the government put more land up for public auction in order to curb 即係咩意思啊？係嘛 More land available. Supply of property would increase from S1 to S2. OK， 佢問緊啊 ，under what condition the price sold would increase？ 幾時會升啊 ？OK，let's remind ourselves this one. P increase, this one P decrease. 咁幾時會升啊 ？If increase in demand is larger than increase in supply of property, okay, of land, then the overall price would increase. OK 就係咁啫。嗱，自己翻屋企寫翻詳細啲啊，好嘛？自己寫翻詳細啲啦。Which would be like this. Let's start with a reference. D1, S1. Okay, here. Again, P1 to P2. This is P1. 嗱，今次我唔 mark Q1 住啦，好嘛？ Because for this question, the main point is price. 好啦 now we know demand would increase, and the demand increase needs to be larger than that of supply. So let's do it very exaggerated. While supply increase by a little bit, like this. Okay, 我哋望望啦 Then P2, P1 to P2, 咁咪升咗咯，係咪啊？ So this is how we deal with this question. OK， 嗱，自己寫得詳細啲啦，好嘛？因為條片真係好長啦，我加速啦。Now the government has decided to reintroduce the home ownership scheme， 居者有其屋啊，居屋啊，即係話係咪啊 ？In which eligible citizens can purchase a living unit under the scheme at a great discount. Basically around 2 to 3 million 係咪啊？200-300萬買到一層樓啊，好爽㗎，係咪啊？ Now with the aid of a demand supply diagram, explain how the reintroduction of home ownership scheme would cool down the private housing market. 好啦，嚟咯噃 OK Part 1 Home ownership scheme and private housing. What is their relationship? They fall into a substitute relationship, right? Now, therefore, demand for private housing would decrease from D1 to D2. 好嘛 Which means that price would drop from P1 to P2。OK， 好嘛？即係咩意思啦？畫圖 PQ here supply of private housing. This is our D1. Now you see P1 is here. Because of home ownership scheme, we know that demand would decrease. Let's say to D2. Therefore, you see the price would decrease, 係嘛? To cool down the private housing market. OK， 好啦，跟住第二條啊 ，without the aid of the diagram, explain how mortgage interest rate could be adjusted to cool down the private housing market。好啦，慢慢嚟啊，呢個有啲難啊，呢個我寫慢少少啊，Part Two。OK， now we need to establish the fact that, OK, most people need mortgage to buy house， 係嘛？要去做個 mortgage 啊。Therefore, what is their relationship? They are complements private housing and 係咪啊 ？private housing and mortgage complement。OK， 好嘛？ Now, in order for the demand of private housing to decrease, we need people to apply less for mortgage. Okay, therefore, when interest rate increases, cost of borrowing increases. Therefore, by law of demand, the quantity demanded for mortgage would decrease. 係嘛? By the complementary relationship, this would also result in a decrease in demand for private housing because of complementary relationship, complement. OK， 好嘛？所以啊，其實應該點啊？加息咯，係嘛？加息咯，按揭加息咯，咁啲人咪借唔到咯，係咪 ？OK，now boys, good with me. I think we have 2 more pages. Yes, 2 more pages and we are done. 唔係佢啊，3條咋。Now the government plans to introduce Hong Kong property for Hong Kong resident， 即係咩啊？港人港地咯，係咪啊 ？The flats built under the policy can only be sold to Hong Kong permanent resident within 30 years， 係咪啊？原來30年，如果香港住咗30年嘅人先買到，係咪啊 ？Compare with similar flats in the same district without the reselling restriction. Would the price of the flats under this policy be higher or lower? Okay, explain. 我哋睇睇啦。我諗先 ，without reselling restriction， 即係咩意思啊？原來啦 ，without reselling restriction， 冇呢啲 restriction 咧 ，boys 係咪啊？people can sell， 可以賣出嚟啊嘛，係嘛？easy 啊？好啦，容易啲 sell 出嚟即係咩意思啊？ Their supply would be higher， 係嘛？ So those houses, the price would be lower， 係嘛？呢啲冇 restriction 嘅 ，OK。Therefore, these flats, OK, under this policy, probably would have a higher price because the supply, you cannot resell it, right? 係咪？ The supply would be lower, therefore higher price. OK， 好嘛？咁嘅啫。好啦，呢度啦講咩？一孩政策啊，係咪啊 ？Here potential threat, OK, relaxing the one-child policy in an effort to boost the birth rates。OK， 好嘛？跟住佢話啦，一個叫 Good Baby 係咪？好孩子啊，好似叫做係咪？Good Baby International is the largest manufacturer and supplier of infant and children's product in China。好啦 ，without using a diagram, explain why the stock price increase after the information。點解呢一篇新聞一出咧，好孩子即刻嚟啦？OK，now here we use we use demand, not law of demand. OK，now here with more baby. Okay, what does that mean? It means that the demand for baby products would increase. Therefore, price and quantity would increase. Therefore, profits earned is expected. OK， 嗱，記住啊，呢啲未發生㗎。All of these are expected to increase。既然你 expect a good baby 會賺多啲錢啦，嗱，therefore people are more optimistic towards the company. So the demand for the stock would increase, leading to increase in the price of stock。係咪啊？對佢樂觀，咪 demand 高咗，咁咪 price 升咗咯，係咪啊？Okay, so this is how you explain why the stock price would increase。好容易啫，係咪？好似同你以前 BA 嗰啲差唔多啫，係咪啊？When you study BF, right? Basically the same. I think Mr. Chow taught you very well in that regard, right? 好啦，最後一條啦，last one, bear with me, okay? 好啦 ，tobacco tax is an indirect tax in Hong Kong. OK， 嗱，原來講煙草稅啦。好啦，in addition to the rise in tobacco duty， 好啦，首先慢慢嚟先。原來而家啦 ，tobacco duty，OK， 首先我哋有煙草稅啦。So price of tobacco would increase. Okay, the customs, okay, 海關啊 customs has made more effort to prevent the illegal sales of duty not pay cigarettes and has cracked down several。好啦 ，crack down 咗即係咩意思啊？咩意思啊？即係話 here the supply of illegal， 我叫嗰啲叫 illegal 啦，唔叫 duty not pay 啦，好嘛？would decrease。佢話啦。Is it possible that the quantity transacted of illegal cigarettes would increase？ 佢問得你咪 possible， 即係 possible 啦，係嘛？好，慢慢嚟 ，let's break it down. Here, first stream with the tax, we know that the price of legal cigarettes would increase. Therefore, quantity demanded of legal cigarettes would decrease. 好啦 because of a substitute relationship, we know that demand for illegal cigarettes would increase. 我哋 from D1 to D2 啦，好嘛？ This is one way. Second way, with more crackdowns, then the supply of illegal cigarettes would decrease from S1 to S2 啦，好嘛？好啦 let's remind ourselves this one quantity increase, quantity decrease. Is it possible the quantity would overtake? Okay, yes. Finally, we say if the increase in demand for the illegal cigarette is larger than the decrease in supply of the illegal cigarettes, then the quantity transacted would increase Q1 to Q2. OK， 好嘛，咁嘅啫。好啦，點畫啊？嚟咯噃，我哋試下畫多次啊，應該都識噶啦，而家好熟啦，係咪啊？P Q， 好嘛 ？Here, again, original situation as a reference. This is a D1, this is a S1. So 而家啦，呢個係 QT 為重啊。So let's call this Q1. Now we know demand increase larger than supply decrease. Therefore, let's do a very exaggerated increase. 哇，升咁多好嘛？Demand shifts all the way to here, while supply shifts a little bit to the left. 啲啦，好嘛？S2. So let's see the new quantity Q2. Oh, bingo, 搞掂，中咗啦，係咪？Bingo, you see, right? Increases. Okay, boys, I know this is a 17 minutes video. I know your job has been very hard, 係嘛？唔止你啊，阿 Sir 都好攰啊，一輪嘴冇停咁講咗70分鐘啦，好嘛？And that, boys, would also conclude the whole of chapter 8 and chapter 9. Okay, 好嘛？So, congratulations of reaching the end of this chapter. Okay, 好嘛？So, if you still have any question, feel free to WhatsApp me or ask me when we are back to school. So, boys, after that, time to do your revision for the test and also enjoy your holiday. Have a good health with your family, and remember to get more lycée and contribute to me for my hard work in teaching. Okay, I will see you when we are back to school then. Bye bye.